Welcome to the Explainer. Life is hard. It's full of challenges. And our source material really argues that we have two basic ways to respond to that. We can either take the easy way out, for some immediate gain, or we can embrace that hardship to try and build something meaningful. Today, we're going to dig into that exact choice and why pursuing meaning, not just what's easy, is the ultimate way forward. So, the source starts with this truth it's pretty hard to argue with, right? Life involves suffering. Now, this isn't supposed to be some downer of a statement. It's actually the fundamental starting point. Because once you acknowledge this reality, it forces you to make a really critical choice about how you're going to live. And this image, Michelangelo's Pieta, just captures that feeling perfectly. You see the tragedy, but you also see this voluntary acceptance of it. It puts that reality of suffering right in front of us and makes us ask the central question for today. Okay, given that this is reality, what do we do about it? Okay, so let's dive into the first option, which is probably the most tempting response to all of life's hardship. It's the most direct, and honestly, it's the simplest answer. So what exactly is expediency? Well, it's the path of least resistance. It's that little voice in your head that says, look, life is short, it's hard, so just get what's yours right now. It's all about chasing pleasure, following every impulse, and justifying it all because, hey, existence is harsh, isn't it? What's really fascinating here is that this is not some modern, cynical idea. This quote from an ancient text describes the exact same mindset. The argument is thousands of years old. If life is short and sorrowful, then take what you can while you can, and let your strength be the only law you follow. But, of course, our source proposes a much more powerful alternative. It's an idea that humanity seems to have discovered over huge stretches of time, an alternative to just grabbing whatever you want in the moment. And this is the absolute core concept of meaning. It's sacrifice. It's work. It's that profound, uniquely human discovery of delaying gratification. It's the idea that you can actually bargain with the future, that you can give up something valuable now to make the future even better. And this idea didn't just pop into existence. Our source suggests it evolved, really slowly, starting with something as simple but as totally revolutionary as saving some food for later, instead of eating it all now. That simple act grew into sharing, which builds trust. And trust is the basis for trade, and trade, ultimately, is what leads to the abstract moral codes that hold our entire civilization together. So what we're left with is this really clear choice, like a fundamental fork in the road. On one side, you've got the path of expediency, all about instant pleasure and short-term gain. And on the other, the path of meaning, which is about building a better future through discipline and sacrifice. When you boil it down, one is about what you can get, and the other is about who you can become. All right, let's keep going because this is where the logic starts to get pushed to its absolute limit. If small sacrifices can make the future a little bit better, what happens when we scale that idea all the way up? This is the logical conclusion of pursuing a meaningful life. It forces us to really think about what we have to be willing to give up, what we have to let go of, to truly improve not just our own lives, but the world around us. Now, to help answer that, our source gives us this brilliant little story. It illustrates a really common and honestly a pretty tragic human failure. So the monkey is literally trapped by its own greed. It will not sacrifice the little treat it's holding in its hand, in order to preserve the whole, which is itself. It's such a powerful metaphor for how we get trapped by the very things we refuse to release, whether that's a bad habit, an old idea, or even a dead-end job. And this is where the logic gets really painful. You see stories like Abraham being asked to sacrifice his son Isaac that illustrate this profound principle. Sometimes the thing that's holding you back the most is the very thing you cherish. Real progress might actually require giving that up to become the person you're supposed to be. And this brings us right back to that image of the Pieta, which illustrates one of the greatest sacrifices. Just think of a mother who chooses to bring a child into this often tragic world, knowing full well the hardship that's involved. Our source argues that this conscious, voluntary acceptance of suffering is the very bedrock of creating good in the world. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. The philosopher Socrates, he faced this choice head-on. He was offered the expedient path. He could have escaped. But instead, he chose to stand by his principles and face death. And by doing that, he showed that a life lived truthfully gives you a kind of strength that even the ultimate threat just can't overcome. But the challenge isn't just about navigating the random tragedies of life. Our source says there's an even darker problem we all have to face: the human capacity for deliberate, conscious evil. Right, because as our source points out, natural suffering is one thing, but man's inhumanity to man, well, that can be an even greater source of misery. This is the problem of evil, and it really complicates that simple logic of sacrifice we were just talking about. The biblical story of the first brothers, Cain and Abel, really digs into the psychological origins of evil. And it isn't a story about a lack of sacrifice. It's about something much, much worse. It's a story about a sacrifice that is made and then is rejected. This right here is the key insight. Cain works hard. He makes a sacrifice. But reality, or God in the story, rejects it while accepting his brother Abel's. And when that sacrifice leads to bitterness instead of a reward, the soul rebels. That feeling of cosmic injustice, that all his efforts were for nothing, is what twists him toward vengeance against existence itself. This slide just shows that terrifying progression. It starts with a half-hearted effort, a grudging sacrifice, which reality then rejects. That rejection breeds this angry resentment, which turns into a desire for revenge, until finally the soul consciously turns against the good itself. It starts to want to create suffering just for the sake of it. So by murdering his successful brother Abel, Cain isn't just killing a person, he is symbolically trying to destroy the very ideal of goodness that made him feel so inferior. It's an act of vengeance against his own potential, against all of humanity, and against God. So, the ultimate takeaway is this: hardship is going to happen. That's a guarantee. The only thing you really control is how you respond. Are you going to choose the immediate gratification of expediency? Or will you aim higher, and through the profound sacrifice of meaning, confront suffering, confront evil, and try to bring a little more good into the world? The choice is always yours.